All right, I see that record button rolling. Great. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. I think some of you have been involved with JSHS in the past or doing other roles this year. I think maybe Haley is the one for whom it's all very new. Brian is an JSHS alum, but that was like 2014, 12, something like that, when it was up at Yukon Stores. It was a whole weekend thing. So it's a little bit new for Brian too. So I just want to do an overview and make sure we're all on the same page about what JSHS is, what's happening on the 27th and the 5th. Some of you are involved on both days. Some of you only one day. Hi, Connie. Yay, you didn't miss anything. She's an old hand, so she knows what's going on here. So anyway, we were just starting with just a brief overview of the symposium, what's happening, what's different this year. There's a couple for whom it's really quite new, but a lot of you know either the virtual version or maybe a previous version. But this is a research competition for high school students in Connecticut. Whatever school they attend, they are invited to apply to compete with their own original research, or they can register as an observer just to see what their peers are doing. Someone who's just interested in science, someone maybe who wants to compete in a future year, they see what's going on and how it all works. It's been at Yukon Health. This is the 6th year. It used to be at Stores, and it's a federally funded grant. And Yukon Health, Connecticut AHEC applied for the grant when the former director, Joy Erickson, retired from Stores School of Engineering. She saw the signs that it was going to fall through the cracks at Stores, so she asked Petra Clark-Duffner at AHEC if she would partner with her to apply for the grant and host it at Yukon Health. So that's how it got to Farmington. So at that time, it was converted into a one-day event. It's a very long day, about a 10-hour symposium where competition is live. And there are other activities going on, and we serve a couple of meals, awards dinner at the end, or just awards at the end. We tweaked it a little in the most recent year, but because of the pandemic, we went virtual last year. We're continuing with that this year. So you can't have people sitting in front of the computer for 10 hours. So the virtual version is a 5-hour symposium with an hour break for lunch. And the competition is actually split off from the symposium. So the competition takes place the previous Sunday. It will be on the 27th. It's invitation only. There's a poster competition and an oral competition. And we had about, I think about 90 applicants. And out of those 90, the 30 reviewers in January narrowed it down to the top 16 are oral competitors. The next 20 are poster competitors. And then there's another group of 40 or so who were invited to exhibit their research as a poster in the STEM poster exhibition. So all of this, again, all online, separate day for judging. But then on the day of the symposium, those oral and poster competitors have a role. They present. They're not competing in front of judges. They're just presenting to the audience. The awards have already been decided as of Sunday, and then at the end of the day, we have the awards announcements. So when we have to split it and compress it, we still have a block schedule, and I'm going to share at this point my, where are we? Okay, let me share this. All right, you're seeing our program summary? Okay. So it's very similar to when it's the in-person, where we break the audience into 6 groups, A, B, C, D, E, and F, so that we can have smaller, more intimate discussions. And we rotate them around, so to speak, between blocks. Instead of blocks being an hour and 15 minutes, they're only 25 minutes because it's a very compressed schedule. So our activities have become briefer, but it, you know, it makes for a manageable day in front of a computer. So in addition to the judging on the 27th, the symposium on the 5th, there are pre-week activities. This is self-guided. We call it Exhibit Quest. These are these 40 or so applicants who have prepared posters. They created videos of them presenting their posters, and we will be putting them on our website on a password protected page for all the participants to view, provide comments, feedback, ask questions, you know, kind of like an exhibit hall. There could be some back and forth dialogue. And we also had the poster competitors provide us with a PDF of their poster, and we're putting those on the website. So they're exhibitors, not competitive, plus the poster competitors on our website for pre-week. Plus, we will be posting the oral competition presentations, recordings of an 8-minute or 9-minute presentation for each of those 16 top tier oral competitors. So there's lots for our participants to explore, and for participants with comments enabled on their YouTube if they have a video posted to engage with the visitors. So you're serving as a Webex admin. That's what the training is about. So each of the rooms, the breakout rooms, has a Webex admin, and some of you are called authorized adults. It's the Yukon Minor Protection Program. Whenever there's an activity for minors, we need to have someone who's been trained and background checked in each room, and that goes for virtual as well. So we have to, because we have 19 rooms for this symposium with all the various breakout rooms, we have to be sure we have authorized adults in each one of the rooms, and there's never a 1-to-1 ratio for an adult and a minor. So we've, if you are a Yukon Health student, I've asked you to do this training. Probably there might be an exception of someone who'd had their background check done a long time ago, for more than 4 years ago. It's no longer valid. But Haley, that's why I didn't ask you to do this training, because we would have to pay $75 to have you background checked. So many of the rest of you are authorized adults. So let's just briefly go back to that window. Okay. So starting with, let's see. Oral session. Connie, you are the Webex admin for that breakout room. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. For the research panel, that's Stacy Bawa. She is not here this evening. She's another former AmeriCorps member. Should have done introductions. Sorry, some of you probably don't know each other. We can do that. Humanities activity, that's Haley. Correct, Haley? If we look at that master email that I sent on February 18th at 8:56 p.m. that has lots of names on it, this is what I'm looking at. So Haley is the Webex admin for humanities activity, Grace's room. Victoria, who is not here this evening, she is the Webex admin for the humanities activity, Patricia's room. Competitive poster session. That's Rachel, correct? I'm looking at my list here. No, she is at Webex admin for one of the alumni workshops.
Yeah, with Billy, I believe.
Yes, so you're alumni workshop 1. And Blake, you are the Webex admin. You are for the poster session, Blake. Okay, paired with Pearl.
Right.
Yes, okay. And that's this breakout room. Okay, so then back to the alumni workshop. There are actually 3 of those. And Rachel is one, Brian is one. And then who am I missing? there's
Main room.
Did you say main room?
Yeah.
Yes,
Julia.
okay. Yep, so definitely Julia and Arun are stationed in the main room. But we also have, let me just look up my staffing grid. I need to know who is the Webex admin. Megan. Okay, so for the alumni workshop, Rachel is workshop 1, Megan is workshop 2, and Brian is workshop 3. Okay, so now you know what room you're in. It is also in that really long email with all the names on it for you to find your name. I know you're getting a lot of correspondence. It's what we need to do to make this work. You know, when we're in person, even though we do these primers, there's this massive confab in the registration area before we start. It's just wild. We're gonna figure it all out. Okay, so you all know what you're doing. Just backing up a little more information about JSHS. In addition to you, Webex admins, some authorized adults, I want to let you know about some other things going on in some of the rooms. Okay, let me just share this again. Okay, so in the oral session, that's where our oral competitors are presenting to the audience. And Brittany is moderating that session, correct, Brittany?
Correct.
Yes, and Connie is her Webex admin. Yes, okay, so you two, you worked together on this same task last year. So is that correct? You worked together, Connie and Brittany, doing the oral session last year? Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, I think it was us.
Okay.
Yeah, we were there.
Okay, I think so too. I think your room was like one that I didn't have to mess with. I just said, hey, they're both back. Let's have them do it again. So they're going to come up with a plan about, you know, how are we going to work together? Connie, are you going to, you know, we need to do this timekeeping, you know, there's a schedule, and I know you've gotten these emails about the schedule for all the students who are going to be passing through your room that day, and the time blocks that they'll be there and how much time is allotted to each of them. It's very precise. So you're following along with that. I actually don't know, because they only have are they repeating their presentation fresh? Are they going to do it by sharing their screen? Do you remember that from last year, how the oral session, I think probably a lot of them might have run their PowerPoint just like they did in the judging. Is that right? And then narrated along. Okay. So they're, as a team, they're going to figure out how their room is going to work efficiently. And there's also in the Webex admin guide that I sent to you, which we'll look at in a minute. There is verbiage about how to transition from one block to the next. They've got 5 minutes to move. Group A in Brittany and Connie's room at 11 o'clock. Connie says, you know, we're out of time. Please transition to the next room on your personalized schedule. Because every participant is going to receive a schedule saying, during block 1, you're going to be here. During block 2, you're going to be here. During block 3, and so on. So you all have this script. It's the same for everyone. That it's just this transition language, so the students and teachers who are coming know where to go, what to do. So we've talked about this breakout session. So for the research panel, we don't have any of those people here tonight, but just so you know, there are 3 grad students. 1 is from UConn Health, 2 are from different areas of study. Who've made a 1-minute video of something they work on in the lab. Instead of having lab tours, you know, we're not in person. They show this video. They talk about, you know, what they did as an undergrad, how they got to be a grad student, where they hope to be going, what they're working on in the lab, what life is like for them. So that will be 2 moderators who are AHEC scholars will be moderating those 3 students, and Stacy will be their Webex admin, helping to coordinate with timekeeping, monitoring the chat box, that sort of thing. So humanities activity, we talked about Haley being the Webex admin in Grace's room. And Haley is going to be attending another training. The humanities activity, for those of you who don't know, each year we have a high school science teacher develop a curriculum that's interactive. Again, it's one thing when you're in person, you're a little bit limited when you're doing it online, but we break into even smaller groups. I expect that each one of these breakout sessions will have about 25 people in it. And that's why we break it out into groups. So it's manageable for a more intimate feeling of discussion. When you get to they get to the humanities activity, there's a presentation with that in front of that 25, but then there's also small group discussions. They break out into other breakout rooms. They have to move. This is in the script. And there's about 8 maybe in the smaller groups, and they discuss a certain activity that the presenter asked them to now work on. So that humanities activity training will be next week. Haley gets to go to a second one to know what's going on in that room, and she can figure out how to effectively be the Webex admin for that room. This year's topic is world hunger. It was an idea. We tossed around a lot of ideas with the executive committee and our AHEC Scholars co-leads and our grad student lead, Pearl Sutter. And the idea that came out on top was right around the time that we were having our meeting, there was this tweet between a UN leader and dealing with world hunger and Elon Musk saying if Elon Musk just donated $7 billion of his fortune, we could solve world hunger. And Elon responded, show me a plan and I'll consider it. It's got to be transparent. It's got to be this, that, the other thing. So, you know, that was a dialogue on Twitter for about a day. But wow, what a heavy subject. And can we solve world hunger with science? Can we do it with $7 billion? That's more than students can solve in 50 minutes, but it is a great discussion point. So the humanities activity is that you can see that it's a part 1 and a part 2. That's because the blocks are so brief that we actually have to lump 2 groups together in order to do anything constructive, have a presentation and have a small group discussion. That's a 50-minute activity, not a 25-minute activity. So in the humanities activity, they're not leaving. It's a double group and they stay for double long. So that's good information for Haley to know. Competitive poster session. So that is Pearl moderating, and Blake, you are Pearl's Webex admin. And as we mentioned before with the alumni workshop, Brian is one of those admins. And Megan And remind me again, who's the third? Are you here today?
The alumni workshop now?
Yep.
That's me.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay. So the alumni workshop training happens to be at 7 o'clock tonight. So Rachel will be attending a second training, and so will Brian. And we will talk about more specifics regarding that, just like Haley will get more comfortable with what she's doing at the humanities activity. But it's enough to know that each of the Webex admins will be paired, grouped with a pair of JSHS alumni who are presenting a curriculum developed by Billy Huggins, who's a grad student here at UConn Health. He's a former high school science teacher. And it's about bias in science. So it's a quickie activity, engaging, and each of these groups of 25, because we're actually assigning them to 3 different rooms. It's not a situation like humanities where they all go to the same room at once and then, or at, for a period of time and then break into 3. There's actually going to be 3 separate workshop 1, 2, and 3 on their schedule. They'll know which one to choose in the breakout rooms when they're moving. So the Webex admin will be helping with timekeeping, will be monitoring the chat box, and we'll talk about at that training at 7 o'clock how the Webex admins can make plans with the co-leads for each of those workshop rooms. There's one other role on the schedule that you should be familiar with, and that is the lunch break. I know I said there's an hour break for lunch, and we really literally did that last year, and people turned off their cameras and mics and disappeared for an hour. But there were a few students on the eval, participants, who said, I wish we could have had like some kind of informal space to talk to other students. And, they're being presented at, and yes, there are some guided activities, but they wanted some more of a free-for-all. And we thought with bringing our alumni on this year, this is the first year we've made a real concerted effort to bring in a lot of alumni to support this and hopefully grow continuing relationships for future leadership with the symposium. And I think there's something like 17 that volunteered, which is fabulous. And so one of the activities we slotted them into were some lunch and chat rooms. We saw 4 areas of study that they kind of had in common. One is biomedical engineering, that there were a lot who are now studying that, or I don't think there are any who graduated. Yeah, I think there might be one who graduated with that degree. So whether they're still students or they've graduated, there still are alumni. And a second room is health sciences. And so these are people studying for degrees in dental medicine or medicine or physician assistant, could be any of those. But it happens to be those 3 I just mentioned who slotted in those rooms. Another one is physical sciences. There are a couple of alumni with degrees in chemistry. And then a 4th room is kind of a unique one, someone whose degree is in engineering and data science. So basically on the personalized schedule that all of the participants will get, they'll see that they can either go away for lunch or they can take a little break for 15 minutes, come back and go to one of these rooms for 15, or maybe come back at 12:30, go to a room for 15 minutes, or pop in or out for 5 minutes, that sort of thing. It's a very informal chat. The alumni will engage with the audience who's ever coming and going, having them introduce themselves. But we also need to have Webex admins and authorized adults in those rooms. So let me bring up that information. You know what? We're not going to have Webex. I take it back. We're not going to have a Webex admin just because it is so informal, we're only having authorized adults in that room. But you know what? As it happens, like, you know, there is a method to my madness. All of the authorized adults I assign to those rooms are Webex admins. Okay, perfect. All right, so the dual role, Blake. I'm actually going to share my screen here, might as well. Okay, so this is my staffing grid. You probably can't see it too well, but okay, so the BME luncheon chat. We've got 3 alumni who are studying BME. Blake is going to ever so kindly bring his lunch. And this is what it does say, lunch and chat. We've got to eat, we've got to drink. So, you know, it's like a lunch and learn. You bring your lunch and you're there as an authorized adult. I don't see anybody having a problem with WebEx. There might be someone who's too shy to talk, putting something in the chat box. And Blake, you're going to make sure that those 3 alumni see what's coming in, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just announce it to them if they're not seeing it. Health sciences room, that's Isha. In this room, it's Isha and Brian and Cameron, who's a PA. So Brian, you're actually there kind of as 2 roles. You've been trained to be a WebEx admin, but you're actually speaking as a health sciences alum for your MD, MPH studies. Physical sciences room, that's where Megan will be stationed with Bernard and Paul. And of course, Megan isn't here tonight. Victoria couldn't be here tonight either. That's where Mike is in the 4th room, engineering and data science room. So we're trying something new and different from last year. It's going to be unscripted, just warm and inviting, and let's chat. What do you want to, you know, what do you want to learn about? Like, you want to know what should you study as an undergrad, or is medical school way too hard, or whatever. All right. So now you have, I think, a little bit better feel about the symposium big picture. I want to mention that as of now, there are about 160 students who appear to be attending. There are about 50 who haven't confirmed yes or no. And I sent reminders today. They're kind of pouring in. The parents of the minors are confirming, a few teachers who are missing. About 12 teachers are coming. Most of them do have delegations coming. There might be 1 or 2 who just love STEM stuff. And even though their students aren't coming, they're coming anyway. And we're going to have about 50 volunteers with us, including you folks that day. The alumni who are helping us, the 17 alumni, not just Brian here at UConn Health. Also, Ali Gochin is another JSHS alumni at UConn Health. But we also have alumni from Northwestern, University of California, Santa Barbara, West Virginia University School of Medicine, Boston University School of Dental Medicine, Colgate, and MIT. These are all current students. And we also have 6, 7 professionals. They're out in the field now, and they're going to come and they're going to pitch in with Exhibit Quest or other alumni workshop, that sort of thing. I think we've talked about, you know, I mentioned that not everybody's competing. It is usually about a 25% competing and a 75% observing, but we've found with the virtual environment, for whatever reason, we get a lot fewer observers. So it's more like 50-50. But even with that ratio, you can see that people have different goals. You know, for some, it's they feel like there's a lot on the line, at least with the competition. The top prize is a half scholarship to UConn. And the competition having been done on Sunday, hopefully they'll be a little more relaxed, although they won't, you know, they'll be nervous not knowing how they did, how they fared, and the awards will be at 2:30. But then there will be a lot who are just there to learn, to soak it in. All right, so let's move on to the actual Webex guide. I'm going to pull that out. And you all received that multiple times from me, I'm sure. And I actually, Julia made a little bit of a tweak regarding Max participants who use Max. We really wanted to put that in writing because it's something we need to know how to do. But all of the competitors have tested their Webex system or are in the process of doing that this week with appointments. So you should not have a situation where you have to walk someone through like as if they've never seen Webex before, because all of our presenters will have already been through this process, eliminating glitches. Okay, so if you can just walk through, I'm just gonna share my screen again. I know you know how to read, but we're just gonna touch on the basics here. Okay, so it's going to be one meeting link, one Webex meeting link with a whole bunch of breakout rooms. There's just one link to manage, but moving from session to session was the biggest complaint last year from our participants. We showed them one way to do it in the participant guide, and I demonstrated one way to do it, but it was not the best way to do it. So I'll show you what the best way to do it is when demonstrating. I just want you to know how these things work. Arun and Julia, being in the main room, they have really the biggest weight on them as far as people getting bumped out of rooms or not knowing where they're supposed to be, or their Webex isn't functioning properly and they can't get to a room. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of that in your breakout rooms. So you shouldn't worry too much, but just be aware that you know, these technical situations can arise. Arun and Julia will be in the main room, authorized adults. I can spell them to give them a break. I will be checking in on them frequently so they can break when they need to, and even explore the symposium a little bit, you know, from time to time, whatever they're interested in. So you can see here, I'm asking you to report at 9:15 on the 5th, and I am going to talk about the 5th, not the small number of you who are involved with judging on the 27th. Last year we gathered at 9:30. The symposium starts at 10, and there was barely enough time to like do the attendance. I don't know if Arun remembers this. Do the attendance and call people who are missing. You know, some people saying, oh, I know that person, I will call them or whatever. So I know it seems a little excessive to come in 45 minutes early, but with 50 volunteers, it's good. And also, you will have an opportunity to go with your partners into your breakout room after Ellen takes your attendance. I know you're here. You can go move to your breakout room and say, okay, let's get set up. Let's have our game plan. You know, you maybe, hopefully, maybe email each other and just briefly make a plan, but then you can get in the room together and make sure things are working properly for you and you know what each other's going to do. So most people are going to arrive at 9:55, but people are going to be coming and going throughout the day, especially if they have technical difficulties. They need to disconnect and reconnect. So that may be one thing that you might be helping someone in a chat box. They cannot chat with someone in the main room. They can only chat with people in your breakout sessions. So if they're having difficulties, they may say, you know, my camera's not working, I have to leave, or that's fine. We know that leaving and coming back often solves problems in Webex or whatever. So they'll get back to the main room. They can move themselves to wherever they need to go, or if they need help, Arun and Julia can help them. If they don't know where they're supposed to be, that could be a situation. Somebody could be in your room that doesn't really belong there, but it's okay. We assign people to rooms to keep things evenly divided. But if someone's in your room because they want to see more than one session of poster or oral presenters because they want to submit next year, that's fine. If someone, you know, really isn't, they decide for whatever reason they want to hang out in a certain room, it's okay. All right, so I referenced the personalized schedule that they are going to reference throughout the day. You are going to be stationary, that is for sure, except if someone can give you a break. You're really going to have to stay in your assigned room, especially if you are the authorized adult. You really need to be there. You shouldn't be there with one student. If there's one student hanging out in there, you might want to, you know, ask them to go back to the main room, or pop back to the main room yourself and just explain the situation. And I might be hanging out there. I don't think something like that happened last year, but I just want to prepare you. So you can see all of these breakout sessions. We're starting at 10 o'clock very promptly because we only have this set amount of time. What used to be like a 30-minute introduction is done in 5 minutes. I read very quickly through a script of important points for participants to know. We have a 1-minute welcome video from Dr. Gould, the director of AHEC. And then we have a 2-minute video from Dean Liang, who is the acting CEO of UConn Health. And then I introduce the keynote speaker, who is Dr. Kelly Benoit Bird, who happens to be JSHS alumna herself, very exciting, from the 90s. She's a MacArthur Genius Award winner. Joy has been trying to get her for this for years, but she lives on the West Coast because she does studies marine acoustics. And so because it's virtual, we can bring her here very easily. So the keynote, everybody attends. So we're all in the main room, unless you want to hang out in your breakout room because you're practicing with your partner. You're the 3 of you, the 2 of you. We'd love for you to attend the keynote, but I know you need to prepare, and that's very important. So if you want to stay in your breakout room, that's okay during the keynote. So I mentioned how you can see how tight the schedule is. Everything is down to 25 minutes, 5 minutes to move yourself. And then the next, you start promptly. Timekeeper, Webex admin, encourage them to go. You're not waiting 1 minute. Okay, so I talk about preparing your plan. You can do that once you check in at 9:15 in your room. I do encourage you to reach out to whoever your partner is, whoever I mentioned tonight, and let me know if I'm connecting some of you in that way, so you know who each other is, and you can do that. The alumni workshop tonight, I think it's very important because the alumni, you know, they don't have they're not UConn Health students like the humanities activity presenters who are in and out of the AHEC office. So they're kind of new to us, and we want to provide them with a lot of support. They may be a professional. Oh, one of our alumni is an assistant attorney general for the state of New York. And she's not doing research in the lab anymore, but she's a fabulous speaker. So she's presenting this curriculum that Billy Huggins developed, but we definitely want her to feel like She's supported, she can rehearse with her co-lead, whatever they need to do to work things out together, and the Webex admin. Who's going to do what? Webex admin, are you going to share the presentation screen so all they have to do is narrate and they just tell you next slide, or do they want to be in control? That sort of thing. So this is where I was mentioning the announcement, the Webex admin helping there. We need to wrap up. Thank you all. It's time to move to the next block according to your personalized schedule you receive via email. So just always bring that back, you know, that important email they have to refer to. However, I showed you that, you know, we have this lunch break that it bisects the second humanities activity. Sorry. So we have group C and D for the first two blocks and groups E and F in the next two blocks. So that's the only little odd situation where your announcement is, we need to wrap up for lunch break. You have a couple of options. Move to one of the 4 optional lunch and chat sessions. Return there at 12:15 or 12:30. Or move to your breakout session scheduled for 1 o'clock and turn off your camera and mic until then. So they have that option. However, I need to add a third option here because the humanities activity, they're actually coming back to the room. I will make sure that's clear for, that is Haley.
Do you foresee people running into any issues here as far as what you were talking about with the one-on-one in a room? If they're moving into their next breakout session, but not everyone is moving into their next breakout session necessarily? Do you understand what I'm asking? Does that make sense?
I know what you're asking. I don't foresee that
Okay.
because there's going to be like 25 of them, or at least, or like 8 of them. And they're immediately going to turn their camera off. So if camera's off, you know, they're not there. You don't have to worry about them. That's a great question though. The reason why I say that is I don't want them to disconnect. I don't want them to leave and come back because they'll probably get distracted, not come back. So we want them to position, you know, they could go back to the main room and hang out there. If you think that's a better idea, then we can tell them to do that instead.
I don't have a true opinion. I don't know. I just was wondering. I know you said the groups
Yep.
are pretty big, but I
Yep,
didn't know if they would.
I think you're really thinking things through, and that's excellent. I'm just going to add main room, and they can hang out there. You know, we'll always have Arun and Julia in there, and I will be giving them breaks, spotting them for breaks, so they can take time off during that hour. Okay, so you do that. You've got 6 block, a total of, you do it the first time, you repeat it 5 times more. The one exception to that is humanities activity with Haley. You're only doing it a total 3 times. So you do it the first time and then you do that humanities activity 2 more times. But wherever you are at 2:25, your announcement is, we need to wrap up for the raffle and awards. Thank you all. Please move back to the main room. So at that time, they will be finding out who's won. We have we have 3 raffles to announce: an evaluation, People's Choice Award that they did during pre-week, looking at the STEM poster exhibitions, and also an exhibit quest, also involving the STEM poster exhibitors. Okay, so this mentions moderators coming to an understanding. Moderators, let's like Brittany and Pearl, and also the moderators of our research panel, they have a little bit of a different role. It's not like a scripted curriculum. They're keeping the conversation going, but no matter what you're doing you've got partners you got to work out a plan with. Okay, so I know we're running out of time. It's 6:46. You're all here on Webex. You all successfully got here. That's great. We provide this information to everyone. We want to make sure that our participants get this as well. The speed test, not this guide. They get a simpler guide, but we want them to do the speed test. If they have a problem, they can, they can test load Webex. If they have a problem, they can, we give them advice to get closer to the Wi-Fi. Or if there's someone else using the Wi-Fi, using bandwidth, ask them to step off while you're there on the symposium. That orange triangle, that shows they're having trouble, and you might want to start a chat with them in the chat box saying, hey, I see you're having trouble. Can you get closer to the Wi-Fi? It's good that you have your video off if you've done that on purpose, because that will keep you connected. If you are having those bandwidth problems, you might try jumping off the meeting and coming back on. It might get resolved. So as a Webex admin, that private chat with someone who's struggling, please be proactive, and so they know you're there to help them in case you have any tips for them. So the Webex guide goes through basic functions. And like I said, you can all read, and I know you're going to review this. I don't need to go over it detail by detail. There's a lot of information that is helpful to know, but you're not necessarily going to use it. Like, this sort of thing, Arun and Julia may be more interested in than the rest of you, what hosts and co-hosts have the power to do, basically. This is the one thing I want to make sure everybody is aware of. This is the big problem where I would say 15% of people who filled out the evaluation mentioned problems moving to their breakout room. They're not pre-assigned to breakout rooms. They're moving themselves based on that personalized schedule. So how do they do it? We want them to go to the top banner, this top options bar where it says breakout sessions. They scroll down to join breakout session, and then there's only 4 listed here, not 19. Yikes. But this is what we want them to use. And I'm just going to tell you the wrong way so you know what the difference is. Julia, did you leave the wrong way in here because I asked you to, or did I tell you to get rid of it?
I removed it. I can explain it though. As I explained it, Ellen, do you want to maybe enable a breakout session and then they can see exactly what it looks like
Sure,
from a
that's great.
perspective?
Okay.
So the intuitive way is going to pop up on the right side of the screen above the participants panel. It's going to be a green box. Once Ellen enables it, you guys will see it. But it'll be a green box that says join a breakout session or something like that. That's just doesn't really work super well with large groups, because when the names come in, they can't choose what breakout session they want to join, which is why we want you guys to direct them to that top menu bar. So now I'm seeing a breakout sessions. So if you go to your top menu, sorry, Ellen.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't actually get to the point where I assigned people to breakout sessions, so you could see the effect that was very negative for people. But when people are moving themselves to a breakout session, their name will appear here. It will start rolling with additional new names. And when you have 150 people on the meeting, it got very tangly, and it would like try to click on a session and it would roll again because another name was added and it made it longer, the list longer or whatever. Okay, so as Julia was saying, and I'm going to share my meeting window. You can see it now, right? So what you're doing instead is we're going to direct them to this method where they just go down to join breakout session and choose one here. There will be no names mentioned there, people's names. It will be just the name of the room. Okay.
And it'll also be important that you guys direct them to that top menu bar because, like I was saying, the intuitive way that pops out in their face is that green one that does not work very well with large groups. So it's imperative that you guys are very clear about going to the top menu bar, and so that breakout sessions option, join breakout session, and then going to wherever they're assigned to based on their personalized schedule.
So I think that Julia and Arun will be delivering that message over and over in the main room. I don't think you will have to deal with it a lot, except in maybe in the first block, because people don't know what to do yet. You're going to say, they're going to say, I'm hovering on the right in the participants area and it's rolling up and down. You'll say, no, go to the top bar and join that way. Now I'm going to explain this during that very important first minute of housekeeping because this was such a big problem last year. That's the one Webex thing I'm going to explain. But the other thing is, if they can't figure out how to move themselves to the next breakout session, just tell them, click on the red door on the bottom and go back to the main room, and people will help you there. So that's like the major problem I see you dealing with in the first block. People don't know how to move, or they think they know how and it's not working for them. So you want to tell them the better way to do it. Or if they're really struggling, because sometimes Webex does, with people with low bandwidth, like they can't seem to move themselves, just click the red door or even disconnect from the meeting and come back into the meeting. Okay, so what else do I want to share? Oops, oh no, I just changed my view and I can't share anymore. I just clicked something. Let's see, is it full screen? Oh, I got it back. I love it when I learn how to do something. Okay. We're going to be ending in a minute, I promise, because I know you all know how to read this guide. Anything else important? Oh, yes. You need to know how to make someone a participant for sharing. That will be each of those 16 oral presenters coming into your room, Connie. They need to be not a participant, I'm sorry, a presenter. You need to change their role to presenter. I don't think I'm actually on that part in the Webex guide. Let's see. And Connie, this also applies to judging, of course. You have to make them a presenter before they can share their screen. They're
Page
just
6,
going to be.
Ellen.
I'm sorry, what?
It's on page 6, how to
Thank
allow
you.
a participant to share their screen.
Thank you. Okay, so that's important to know. Webex admins, you might be the one sharing the screen, so you need to be selected as a presenter. But if your partner in the room, like a moderator or co-presenter, says, no, I want to control the PowerPoint, then they need to be the presenter so they can share their screen. So you guys are going to work that out amongst yourselves, whatever's most efficient. Okay, so we've got 6 minutes left. Julia, is there any, mute participants? That's an important skill. If you see that blue box, that feedback happening in your room, and they're not a presenter, you go ahead and mute them. The small group discussions, we're encouraging people to unmute. We do not want them muted when they're in the small group humanities activity or in the BME lunch chat or in the alumni workshop. But if someone's got a dog barking in the background, they need to be encouraged to mute unless they want to talk. So as Webex admin, you can chat in the chat box. Okay, so here's something very important. People mentioned the post-lunch slump last year. That you as a team member are going to help your presenters, your moderators, avoid that slump. Everybody's just eaten. It's the second part of the day. You're now repeating this for the fourth, fifth, whatever time. People are getting tired. You've got to be in there with them, and they're going to get the same message from me. Be a cheerleader, be in that chat box, engage in conversation, make comments, ask questions of the participants or of the work presenters. Whatever you can do to keep things lively, please try. That's all I'm asking. Keep that in mind, that people in the eval mentioned that post-lunch slump, whether they were a panelist who got tired or a presenter. Try to just be aware of it so you can help them with that. Anything else, Julia?
The one I think helpful Webex to do that is a little bit different than Zoom. I'm not sure where your comfort lies for each of you, but the layout feature is also might be important based on what presentation you're using. So on the top right of your screen, you see that layout option. You can choose grid, stack, or side by side. In the Webex guide that Ellen provided to you, there's a description of all of those. So maybe working with your small groups after attendance on the fifth, like Ellen was talking about earlier, figuring out if, are you sharing a screen, then therefore we're okay. Is it just going to be your face presenting, and therefore do you want to maybe put it in stack mode so that people are seeing that active speaker kind of thing. So just a conversation to have and something to be cognizant of.
Okay, and that is on page 4 where she talks about the layout. There's a whole bunch of bullet points: share, participants, chat, layout, red exit button, mute, start stop video. So that's a great point. Thank you, Julia. Okay, so we've got 3 minutes. Do you have any questions about what you need to do and when? You will receive an email from me by the 28th with the Webex link and the program, so you'll feel like, okay, I've got the whole package now. Okay, I interrupted someone. Go ahead.
Sorry, just me. I was just asking with the layout function, is that something that you're envisioning us explaining to people as they enter the room then? If there's like a specific activity that would like lend itself best to a certain layout? Because isn't it individual based on the person? Like we each would have to go and set our function.
Each person does control it, yeah. So the default is grid, which would typically work for a small group discussion, because that'd be like you're sitting around a table or something like that. But yeah, so depending on where you are, that would need to be set at the beginning of each session.
Hi, Sarah, you're not late. We're finishing our first training. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
So that's a good question, Rachel. Yes, I can't, Julia, you worked on my housekeeping script. Did I say anything about layout in that last year?
I think there's one reference to the stage function, and I was also just poking around earlier, and I'm seeing something that seems new to me also. But you mentioned it briefly, yes.
Okay, all right. I thought I did. So Rachel, they won't be going in blind, and like I said, they'll also be getting a participant Webex guide, which is much more basic. But will they read it? Probably not. So you're all informed. You have the more detailed guide, and you know, I know you're most of you are very familiar with Webex, but play some more if that makes you feel better.
And their guide will have the instruction as to how to best move to breakout sessions, I assume.
Yes. Yes.
Won't have the intuitive
the bad way.
We are not including the bad way, but they still might try to do it. They
Yes.
probably will.
Yes. Okay, so we've got 1 minute before our next training session. Any other questions? And you know you can email me anytime. Yep. Yes.
For the lunch script, so move to one of the 4 optional lunch and chat sessions, turn off your camera and mic, grab your lunch, return there at 12:15 or 12:30. So the idea is that we're giving them 15 minutes or 30 minutes to get food, and then they'll come back to the lunchroom itself to like talk.
That's correct. So
Okay.
yeah, it is that people need to feed themselves. Okay. So I just figured carving out the middle 30 minutes of that hour and kind of having like 15-minute blocks where people could not come back from lunch until 12:30 or come back at 12:15. It's very free and easy. And I'll try to explain that in the personalized email. They can come and go. They can not attend. They can pick one. They can spend 5 minutes in all 4. It's very casual. Just whatever they want to chat with you about, Brian, and you'll, you know, if nobody's saying anything, you'll just tell them about yourself, your degrees and whatever. Or you can have a conversation with the other alumni in the room, asking them questions, you know, back and forth.
So that was my second question. So for the alumni, for the lunch room I'm in, it's just me and one other alumni, or is there going to be more than two of us?
Cameron, who's AHEC Scholar PA, and Isha,
Okay.
who's first year MD PhD.
Okay, so all three of us are the alumni.
Yeah, and you know what? Cameron is not an alumni. I just wanted a PA in that room because I wanted more than medicine. Yeah, so.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And other alumni are involved in the workshop, and I'm giving them the lunch off. I don't want them to have to worry about that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And thank you to my alumni who are popping in and being very patient now. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from WebEx admins? You guys have been great. Thank you very much for volunteering and for listening to this, I know, really exciting training. But you have an important role and you know it. So thank you very much, and keep a looking for my emails. They're coming. Have a good evening, and alumni, stay with me, please.
Thank you.
All righty.
Ellen, can we stop the recording for this one and then restart it and hope that they're two separates to avoid editing?
Yes, we can.